Welcome back, everyone, to the Writer's Parachute, where we're guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. I'm your host, Donna Cowan, and we have with us today a very special guest. She's a children's author of Periwinkle's Magic, is Glenda Tinsley. Of course, we always want you to smash that like button. Go ahead and share the video and subscribe on the YouTube channel or the podcast platform where you are listening to us now. Of course, you can go follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Writer Parachute. That is Writer Parachute without an S. So go check that out. And of course, we always start every week with the topic of the week. So this week, we've been focusing season 2 on reviews. So I'm going to talk about a little used and very effective review technique. It's called video reviews. Now, I know this is not something new to you guys. It's just something that gets lost and forgotten about. Video reviews are extraordinarily effective. And as a children's author myself, I find that they're a little easier to obtain than written reviews because most of my books are written for children. Now, of course, you're going to want to follow the same guidelines you would for photo releases, for video releases, if you are featuring children in your video. Even if they're speaking a review, you're going to want to get permission for that. But they're also a lot easier to get with children and get their unvarnished idea or their opinion about your books or what they're excited about. These are very effective, especially when you are marketing to schools. You know, you can send them a few clips of reviews by actual kids at certain grade levels or certain ages, and this will make it very clear and very evident to the schools and the education staff that this is probably something that their students might be interested in. This is also very effective. You're allowed to have video reviews on Amazon, on Goodreads, on almost any platform. They will allow that. They're very effective on your website. So the next time you're thinking about reviews, don't forget this magical thing that we carry around in our pocket every day that does interesting and amazing things, and think about doing some video reviews. I think you'll find out how effective they really are. So that's all we have today for the topic of the week. Of course, there's always much more we could talk about. So if you would like to know more about reviews in general, video reviews, or any of the reviews that we have discussed here on season 2, be sure to drop us a note in the comments, or you can reach out to us at thewritersparachute.com. And just let us know, and maybe we will do a specific podcast episode, special guest episode, where we're going to talk about that particular topic. So let's get on with the show. We, of course, want to get to our interview with Glenda Tinsley. She is a children's author, writer, and improv artist. We're going to talk to her about her book, Periwinkle's Magic, which she's going to hold up right now. As a child, Glenda felt shy. Looking out her window to neighbors and passersby, she would make up stories about them. Hiding a flashlight under her bed for emergencies, Glenda used it to read her favorite books. Sitting up in bed with the blankets pulled up over her head, she pretended to be in a tent. Her first book, part of a series, Periwinkle's Magic, is inspired by a bedtime story she created about adventures with Periwinkle, a magical gnome, and Mac the macaw, a parrot, that she would tell her daughters. Her oldest daughter would add little tidbits to the story. Giggling with Glenda, her kids and grandkids laughed out loud whenever she shared her stories. Her message is a reminder to children that using imagination throughout reading helps you get through things, enjoy life, and that anything is possible. Glenda lives in the Sacramento area with her family. Welcome to the Writer's Parachute, Glenda. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's another day, another episode,
Right.
and it's been exciting. I never get asked that question, but thank you. So, we've kind of been talking a little bit about your book, and we've sort of hinted about what it's about, but it's a bedtime story, and I'm not going to give the total story away, but it's about a little girl who's kind of having her own bedroom for herself for the very first time, and she's a little bit afraid. and she's not sure how to overcome that fear when this magical gnome named Periwinkle shows up, and they go on all of these adventures, and it kind of helps her deal with that fear. So I want to know why combining fear and magic in one book was an important topic to have for kids.
Well, my two daughters were going to get their own room for the first time. They've always shared a room. And they were afraid to, all of a sudden, the noises became scary to them. Before, they would giggle because they had each other. And so I just thought, I've got to create something for them both to, do better. And my older daughter, Emily, she would add little tidbits to it when I was in the other room with my other daughter, Lindsay, and it was funny. Because what it did was all of a sudden they'd see things in a different way. Like the scratch on the window, they could hear the tree on the window and going, oh my God, what is that? And now it's like, oh, it's probably Mac up there.
Yeah, yeah, Mac the
macaw,
Mac the macaw, yeah.
From Periwinkle's magic, because of the stories I would tell.
Mhm.
And after a period of time, the transition, being in their own room, they became calm, a lot more calm about it.
Right.
So I wanted to, it's a story I've been wanting to tell forever. My oldest daughter is in her 40s, and my youngest is in her 30s. So it's time, I would think, yeah. And we have grandkids as well. So.
Well, and I find that amazing. You and I are very similar in that, both of our first books are drawn from stories that we were telling our kids and grandkids, in part of that kind of nighttime, bedtime ritual, which I find is, very fertile land for children's books, because, kids have fears of all sorts of things that you need to deal with as a parent. So, so the specific inspiration behind this book was to kind of deal with that anxiety. Is that correct? Is to
Correct.
kind of give them some other focus or some kind of magical connotation for all these fears that they were dealing with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Especially when they were kind of in a magic bubble,
Mhm.
the middle part of the story, and they relaxed more, and then their dreams,
Mhm.
they were able to dream fun
Yeah.
dreams, not scary ones.
Right. which is always great, which is why I love a bedtime story for kids, because it does a couple of things. It resets their mind to something a little more positive or a little more creative. Again, that's why there's a lot of magical tales for children. But it also resets their mind away from just the day-to-day things that they
Right.
need to be, what they're focused on, the things that they're worried about, the things that they're concerned about. It takes them away from that. And it kind of creates this relaxing kind of ritual atmosphere for kids. And I always find that extraordinarily helpful. And most parents have kind of shied away from this reading and nighttime stories once they get past a certain grade level. And I tend to think that it's even more important sometimes when they get a little bit older to, maybe switch off with you reading to them or them reading to you. And I think it's an excellent book idea, and I love that your book is clearly one of those books that would be a beautiful bedtime story. Of course, you could read it anytime, but it would be a very good bedtime story for any child that is dealing with any kind of anxiety, because I love the magical connotation of things that are scaring them, the monster in the closet, the scratching on the window, the darkness. They're all part of the magic for the adventure. And I
Oh,
love that.
absolutely. and I've always had a kind of a wild imagination anyway. I've always read, ever since I was really little. And I got my daughters into reading, and they had bunk beds, and I got clamp lights on both of them. And so every night, about an hour before bed, they did the ritual. As they got older, I said, how about you guys each do some reading now? Oh, I don't want to read. And then they start reading, and then they loved it.
Right.
And if, they're having trouble doing, I would read with them, even
Right.
when they got older. And as a result, they said they had good dreams, because we would talk about dreams the next day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean that I know for myself and my grandchildren, a lot of times is I would read usually a couple of times a week to them. Sometimes they would ask me to read an actual book, but a lot of times they'd ask me to make up a story. But then I also filtered in where they could, when it was their turn to read, to pick their favorite book and read the story. And sometimes just hearing somebody else read their favorite book would get them more interested in other books. So it's kind of a sneaky, tricky way to get them to read more books without reading more
and
books.
plus I use different voices.
Yes, yes.
And that's part of my improv that comes in, because I would do, like silly little voices, and they'd start giggling,
Yeah. Yes, lots of giggling, lots of pillow fighting going on. So yes, it was always entertainment. But I loved it, and my grandkids would look forward to it. And it's like, they knew when, I would say, it's like, okay, it's time to get ready for bed. And it's like, I really didn't have any argument for them, because they would all try to get there, fast, because they knew this was, storytelling time. And they
right.
really
Oh, absolutely.
they really enjoyed it. And it kind of, again, like I said, it brought them down from all of the excitement and the overstimulation of the day with something just nice and soft and easy. So what would you like readers, whether they be parents or kids, to get from Periwinkle's magic?
I like the slogan that I put in the book, that anything is possible. Because sometimes we get in our own way, and we're afraid to do things, no matter what our ages are. And to be able to, get out of our own way in our own head and worry about whatever it is, that it opens your mind up to other things. So the next day would probably be better, and maybe they can accomplish what their goals are or work towards them. I mean, getting their own room is a big deal. The first time we've all gotten our own room. Sometimes some kids never get their own rooms and would like them, but can't. But what I'm saying is building on to what the next step is in their life.
Right. My mother used to always say, she goes, the easiest way to see forever is to take down the wall you put between you and it.
Right. I love that.
and she was absolutely right. It's like, we purposely put those walls up between us and all the possibilities, because sometimes we just don't want to think about them. They're too scary, or they're too intimidating, or whatever is going on with there. But again, she's right. If you want to see forever, take those walls down.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you could go back to the beginning, before you started writing and publishing this book, what do you wish you had known, or that somebody had told you?
That there's a lot more steps to it than I thought. Most definitely. And the other thing is, I would have made more lists, because it always makes me feel good to check it off. And I started making lists after I've been doing it for about a year. Excuse me. And having a good editor makes a world of difference.
Did you have a good editor?
Yes, that would be you.
Thank you. I'm just giving her a hard time. Glenda she was at the same time very strategic and very thoughtful in actually listing me as her editor on her book listing. And I'll tell you why I think it's very thoughtful and very strategic. Very thoughtful because editors very seldom ever get recognized in books, even though we have a big job to do. But it's very strategic in the fact that now her book is listed under my multiple books.
Really?
So she has access to all of my followers as well as her own.
I did not know that.
So it was an accidental strategic act.
I had no idea. Oh my
I thought that
goodness.
was the smartest thing I'd ever seen anybody do, and you did it by accident. Isn't that amazing? And we
Yeah,
just
maybe subconsciously it was back there, but consciously, no.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, because everybody I've had people contact me and they're like, did you write this new book? And I'm like, no, I was just the editor. And they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna check it out anyway. And I'm like, okay.
I had no idea.
So
me.
maybe giving people credit on your book listing might not be a bad idea, especially if
Right.
they are otherwise popular or have their own platform, because this is called borrowing a platform. She is borrowing my platform and my followers to help market and advance her book. So you heard it here first on the Writer's Parachute. That's a new tip we haven't talked about, but I'll be adding it to the list. So,
Well, the reason I did is because you helped me so much.
aw. Well,
That's why I did it.
That's what I thought was so thoughtful, because again, very few people recognize their editors. I mean, occasionally we get a mention in the acknowledgments and rarely in a dedication, but very seldom do we ever get listed significantly in the book. But I thought that was extremely smart of you. And I was just like going, wow,
Well, I
okay,
guess it
she
was smart of
outsmarted the
me.
teacher.
Even if I didn't know I was doing it.
There you go. See, and that goes back to that you know, no walls thing. You know, you and I are similar in that we don't approach fear like most people and try to back away. We usually challenge it and try to take it down.
Right.
So so that was good. So what do you think readers are going to think about Periwinkle's magic in like 10 to 20 years?
I really feel like it's kind of, it doesn't matter what year it is in 10, 20 years, 40 years, because every child may be going through this over time
Right.
and different parts of the world as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a timeless book. And I
Exactly.
don't think it has to be about fear of having your own room for the first time. It could be the fear of the dark. It could be the fear
Right.
of the unknown. It could be the fear of isolation.
Mhm.
You know, any of the anxiety or fears that, you know, parents deal with a child, especially at night. I think this would be a beautiful book to help them to learn to deal with that in
Thank
defining
you.
ways. So I agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's a timeless book, and I hope that readers agree with me. So what obstacles or challenges did you run into when you were trying to write and publish this book?
Well, like I said before, there's a lot more steps in getting to the end. It's one thing to have it all edited quite well and illustrated. Children's book takes a bit longer because you're also working with the illustrator because there's so many illustrations. So that, you know, but it's magical when it comes together. But then it's all about, especially when you're self-publishing, there's a lot more steps,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, yeah, and it's a big learning process, especially as you said, going through this as a self-publisher and a first-time author, and you know, having to learn all of the steps while you're doing them is going to slow you down in the process. I believe it.
Right.
You know, when I did my first book, it took a lot longer than the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. You know, it's like each time you do it, it gets a little bit faster. Now, yes, you run into specific things and particular obstacles for each book because they're different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that learning process has, you know, has a lot to do with, you know, that feeling of overwhelm and you know, getting through the book and getting to the end. It's like, you know, it's like I remember telling you when you get that first copy of your book, what did I tell you to do?
You told me to have my husband videotape me opening it up.
And aren't you
And,
glad you did?
and it was so fun because both him and I would get the giggles because I'd start to open it and it'd start to fall out. And you have to, I didn't realize how emotional I was going to get when I opened your, you know, especially your first book. And he was kind of emotional too. Don't tell. Anyway, but it was really amazing to actually see it in print, you know, and see all the illustrations and my words
Mhm.
being there. And the story was really happening. And sending it to my daughter and her reaction too. She just went, Mom, you did it.
I know, and the reason I tell my clients and authors and stuff to do this is because it is a once in a lifetime moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may happen with every single book that you do, but that very first book, that very first envelope when you open it, whether you're looking at the proof copy or the actual final copy, that is not, you're not able to duplicate that moment. You're not
Right.
able to duplicate that emotion. And whether you share it with the world or not, it is almost as important as having that very first copy of your book.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
is like the crowning moment of all of that long, hard work that you've done to get this book from an idea to something you can hold in your hands. And so I love those moments when they happen, and I try not to forget to tell authors to do that because, as I said, even if you don't share it, it's something that you will have to keep for the rest of your life because that moment only came once, and I wanted to make sure you celebrated it.
Thank you. I'm gonna talk to my husband about, he's the one that is, you know, developed my website. So I'm gonna ask him to put it on there
All
because I
right.
think people would get a kick out of it.
I think so. I think you know, I think we all want to see that moment because it is a lot of work to
Mm-hmm.
write a book and publish it,
Yes.
you know, with a children's book and the illustrations. And you know, each kind of book has its own hurdles and obstacles to go through.
Right.
But you know, in that moment when you hold that first copy in your hand is just, you know, it is not, you can't duplicate that. You can't relive it. So make sure you capture that. So, what advice would you offer to other authors and writers?
Well, my advice is if you're going to be self-publishing, to, you know, find a good editor and also make a list of all the steps that you need to take. It might be daunting, however, it's such a good feeling to know that you're taking care of all this. I mean, I never thought I would have to register with the Library of Congress, you know, and
You
there's
get
just
your
a
own
lot of
publishing company and
yeah, looking at publishing company and, you know, deciding, do you want to go through a publishing company or self-publish? And but I learned a lot, and I it makes me feel good, you know, especially being a senior that I'm doing it.
you
Go
didn't
girl.
You did an amazing job. And, I hear this a lot, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I hear this a lot where, the older authors are like, oh, well, I'm not tech savvy. It's like, it can be done. There's a way to do it.
Right,
It's really not as complicated as it seems. I mean, and there are coaches out there that will literally walk you through every single step. And it's like, click on this, try that, and there are ways to learn to do it, or there are people you can hire to do that work for you. But I always find the theory of teaching a man to fish rather than giving him fish works better, because
right,
then they don't really need me anymore.
right.
So, but it is attainable. It is something that can be done, and I don't want anybody to feel like, fear, which is our topic here, or
Right.
age is holding you back from
Mhm.
achieving that dream of writing a book and getting it published. So,
It
it
makes you feel younger.
it does, and it makes you feel accomplished. And you mentioned your daughter, and I had the same reaction from my grandchildren. It's like, for them, it was almost inspirational to see me at that age do something that I had dreamed about doing most of my life. And,
Right,
they were already starting to give up on their own dreams, and to see that I waited that many years to achieve my dream was
right.
very inspirational to them. And they were a bit surprised by that. And I'm very sure that this is what's happening with your daughters too, now that they
And my
see.
grandkids, I mean, they're blown
Yes.
away that I'm doing it. They
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Well, who says you're told to do anything?
Right.
Not me. All right.
Absolutely not.
All right. So we want to know, what keeps you motivated?
Um, well, reading, number one. I love to read. But coming to Shut Up and Write,
Mhm.
I love the platform. I got started doing it during COVID. Um, I was pulling my hair out, as we all were. And it's been a great experience. I've been wanting to write for a very long time. And then it got me doing it, and doing it with a group.
Yeah.
And we could be different parts of the US or the world and come together on Zoom, and it's wonderful, and we learn from each other.
Yes, and the thing of it is, what most people don't understand is, we're all working independently on our
Right.
own projects, but we get together at the beginning and the end, and we sort of, talk about those, and we voice, maybe some problems or obstacles, and, seek help from each other. But it's also about the camaraderie of, we're
Absolutely.
all together, and it creates this kind of accountability, because the people are going to be there expecting you to be there. So it makes
Mhm.
you a little more want to get up and get on that call,
Right.
than just go, "Ah, I don't feel like it today." It does create that, and that kind of community where you want to hear how everybody else is doing with their work. You want to talk about
Right.
what you're working on. So uh,
It's very inspiring.
yeah, it is, and it's for anyone, it's open for anybody. If you are interested in writing, they have Shut Up and Write meetings online and in person, pretty much around the world, anytime, day or night. You can go to shutupright.com and check out the local ones, or you can look for the ones that are across the country. You do not have to do anything particular to be able to join. There is no fee. You can sign up and give the information and just show up for the meeting, and they will lead you from there. You can share as much or as little as you would like. The only thing I will tell you is that if you are joining a Zoom meeting, you will need to open your camera when you do first check in. So that's about the extent of it. We try to keep it as simple and easy as possible. I myself host on Mondays and Thursdays every week from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. So it is the Roseville online Shut Up and Write. So if you ever see that, or Shut Up and Write with Donna, that would generally be me. So, but go check them out. They're all great, and they all are there for the same purpose, to give you some time to write and have a writing community around you, which is very helpful in keeping people motivated. So
Absolutely.
thank you for sharing that. So here on the Writer's Parachute in season 2, we've been focusing on reviews, and we want Glenda to write a review for Periwinkle's Magic.
Oh, you want me to write a review?
Yes, yes.
Wow, what would I say? I would say that the storyline and everything is very pertinent for a lot of children. That I found the illustrations lovely. I mean, they're fun. It just really, really draws you in, the magical part of it. And watching Mac, the macaw bird, going from small to medium to really large, it's like, and going through the rainbow and around Saturn, it's just like, wow, can any of us say that we've been through there? Maybe in our dreams. But I think it's a wonderful experience and adventure.
There you go. Thank you. 5 stars. Again,
Thank you.
the reason that we're putting our guests on the spot and our authors on the spot to review their own books is because we want to show you, the audience members and listeners, that a review is not difficult. All it is your opinion. All it is a few simple words. It could be, I like this book, or I recommend this book, or this book would be good for, and then continue on. These are amazing ways to write reviews, but there is no set way. But it is so vital and so important to help authors get noticed out in the public sphere. If you go into a bookstore and look around, I want you to think for a moment how many books in that bookstore you haven't read. And think about how that one author of those books that you haven't read could get your attention. A review by a reader would get your attention. Good reviews, bad reviews, in between reviews, all of them work. We want to encourage you, the next time you read a book, whether you liked it or not, to leave a review. You can always leave a review where you purchased the book. If you check it out of the library, you can also go to Goodreads or to a lot of the platforms and see if they will accept your review. Most of them do. Amazon has some restrictions, but again, you also can leave a review if you did not purchase the book from Amazon. Now, they have a few restrictions around that, but you can attempt to leave a review. But I always recommend giving a review on Goodreads. There's very few restrictions there, and or contacting the author and just sending them their review, or you can put it up on social media and tag the author. So these are excellent ways to get reviews out there, and they're so helpful and so vital for every author. I don't care what genre they're writing in, how many books they've written. Reviews are king. We need the reviews. All right, so what's next for Glenda?
Well, it's going to be a series. I'm also looking at different genres as well. So I'm exploring different things.
Well, a little birdie told me that maybe you're working on a murder mystery. Is that correct?
I am. Yes, I am. I'm about a quarter of the way through. The children's book has been taking me away a lot, and that's okay.
Well, and the book was just released towards the end of May of 2023, so it's just newly out for you. Of course, we'll have links for the book and in the show notes for you. In fact, any links that we mention in the show, we will have those in the show notes for you, so you don't have to run and grab that pen and paper. So do you have any idea when this murder mystery might be available, or when your next book in the Periwinkle series is going to be out?
I do believe my goal is the murder mystery will probably be out this next year.
Okay, awesome.
That's the goal.
Well, that's all right. That's all we can go for right now.
That's right. So I've got some good solid, I was going to say solid leads. I couldn't resist. So I have the basis of the book written, so that's good, and I have an outline and everything. So things may change a little bit, but for the most part, that's good. And I'm also looking at when to do the next book for the children's book as well. People crack up the fact that I'm working on a children's book and murder mysteries, but hey, why not?
Well, you know me, I work on so many different things and genres and subjects. It's like, sometimes you got to clear the palette. Sometimes you got to try something new and different.
Oh, absolutely.
And I find it amazing that the different kind of brain muscles you have to use
Yes.
each one.
I was just going to say, sometimes my brain hurts, but in a good way.
Yes, in a good way. Yes, it's like exercising your brain. So we want to, of course, extend an invitation to have you back next year in 2024 when your murder mystery is out or about to drop. And of course, let us know any more details about your next children's book. So
of course,
where can listeners find your book, Periwinkle's Magic, right now?
Well, Barnes and Nobles. I mean, Noble. Amazon, Thrift Books, Walmart, Overdrive.
So pretty much anywhere books are sold worldwide.
Yes, and internationally as well.
All right, awesome.
And there's also ebooks.
Yeah. Okay, so it is available in a hardcover, softcover, and ebook. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, awesome. Of course, we'll have links to you for the retailers and get you over to her Amazon page so you can follow her. Also, we want to connect them to your social media. So what platforms are you going to be on?
Well, I'm looking at a few different things. Of course, Facebook, that goes without saying, right? Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and a few others.
So you mentioned in the green room also you were going to be doing some things on Pinterest. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, we will have those links for you in the show notes to Glenda's social media accounts so that you can go check those out. Do you have any other upcoming events, giveaways, or newsletter signups? We always ask about that for new authors if they're looking for people to sign up for the newsletters to get updates, or if you have any events or giveaways that you have coming up.
I don't have an event right this second, but more will be revealed on my website. Okay. And you can also sign up for upcoming events and newsletters from my website.
Okay. Well, we will connect you to Glenda's website and go over and check that out. Make sure you sign up for her updates and newsletter and any upcoming events that will be listed there. So was there anything else that you want to include before we jump over for our tip of the week?
I just want to say it just feels so good to be towards, actually, I did it, I actually finished my first book. And I just want to thank Donna for all her help and expert advice. And and we've laughed a lot. And I don't know, just using your creative imagination, it can go anywhere,
That's it.
literally.
No walls again.
No walls, just have fun.
Well,
And, you know, as you age,
mhm,
also,
mhm.
and doing these things, it makes you feel younger. It
Yes,
really does. I feel a lot younger.
I do
Uh,
too. I feel timeless at this point. And the
mhm.
beautiful thing about being a published author, as you now are,
Yes,
is that your book will live beyond your lifetime.
right.
And, and that's a beautiful thing. If you ever think about legacy, if you ever think about what people are going to think about you when you're gone, they have this beautiful proof of
Mhm.
your mind in a book form that they can share with their family and their friends. So that's always amazing. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the tip of the week. So Glenda mentioned she was a new author and a lot of the extra steps that she didn't know about. And so we run into a few problems, or not problems, a few common issues with new authors. First off, and this is not exclusive to new authors, this happens with all authors, is overwhelm. Overwhelm. It is a big project. My best advice is to look at writing and publishing a book as a marathon, not a sprint. There is no race to the finish. You want a good product at the end. Take your time, do it well. But again, don't stall. Don't
Yeah,
dilly dally, as my mama used to say.
right. Mine too.
So, but then there's also that feeling of discouragement that comes up because you don't feel like you're progressing as fast as you wanted to. And I
Mhm.
want you to remember, especially first time authors, as we talked about, there is so much to learn. There is a huge learning process. And even with each successive book, you're going to learn something new. You're going to learn something new about doing it faster, better, about marketing, promotion, things that you hadn't thought about, things that maybe you want to do early instead of later, maybe things that you want to do later instead of now, where your focus would be. And that is kind of a matter of your preference. It's, everybody has their own way of doing it. Everybody has their own way of writing and approaching writing. And the same thing comes into publishing. You have to decide what works best for you. And you're not going to know that until you go through the process. So I don't want you to be discouraged. I
Mhm.
talk about George. George is my internal critic. He always has an opinion about everything, and it's usually not nice. So, I tell people George gets locked in his closet a lot of times because I don't want to listen to him. I just don't want to listen to him. So I suggest maybe you name your internal critic, the one that is discouraging you, that is giving you a hard time, that is overwhelming you. See if you can lock him in a closet and ignore him for a little while and get some work done. I think that's very helpful for you. And then the editing, we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now. Editing is a critical part of your book. Good editing can make your book blossom. Not so good editing can cause problems. So while I am an editor and I work with a lot of authors, I am not the perfect author. I am not the perfect editor for every author or for every project or for every book. There has to be a sense of teamwork. I have to be able to communicate clearly
Mhm.
with that author. I have to be able to understand their uh, focus or their projection of that story and what they're trying to achieve. And I have to have the right tools to do that, but I also have to have the right approach that works with that author. Some
Mhm.
authors are fine with the criticism or the direction. Other authors need a little more softer touch. Some of them just they just want the facts, ma'am. Just fix it and let's get on with it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. So you have to find the editor that is best for you. Don't skip this step and just go with the first editor you can find. Get some sample edits. Make sure that you're finding the editor that works for you and check to see what their credentials are in that particular genre. Of course, any editor can edit any book, but most editors, or like most writers, they do have a focus of the types of books that they do. And so you might want to check to see how many children's books, how many science fiction books, fantasy books, technical books, nonfiction books, memoirs, whatever it is you're writing, find out how many they have done. And maybe, possibly, if you don't know this person, if they're just being randomly recommended to you, is get a reference from one of their other clients and see how they enjoyed it, because while they may have hired that person to do it, but it may not have been the positive experience the editor thinks. So maybe reach out to some of those clients and see how they feel about it. And it could not, I mean, it may not be that they were a bad editor. It may be it just there was a communication issue, or an understanding of the topic of the subject, or things that they missed, or things that they didn't focus on that they wish they had focused on. So I want you to think about that a little bit more. And my overall message here is it's a process. Again, back to the thing, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. All that required is progress forward. Sometimes that requires a couple of steps backwards to keep going forward, but it is a lot, but it is manageable. And give yourself some grace. Don't be so ready to be critical. And I always find it amazing to me that we are so much harsher on ourselves than we would ever be on our worst enemy. So think about that. Talk to yourself like you were somebody that you loved. So that is kind of it for me this week here on the Writer's Parachute. We want to thank Glenda Tinsley for joining us, and I do encourage you guys to go out and check out her book, Periwinkle's Magic. It is a children's picture book, and we'll have that listed for you in the show notes. And of course, as always, I'm so grateful to be the host here on the Writer's Parachute, guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. We hope that you find this a creative space to land your dreams as well, too. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you.